So this video is unlike a lot of the other ones we've done. Instead of talking about players, what I'm going to do is talk to you about what makes the deck so important and why a lot of decks can't beat Brawly. Quick little 5-minute video, hopefully. The big thing I'm going to talk to you guys about is the leader. So if you guys know, Brawly's the normal leader on the front, right? For the most part in this game, as far as I know, there's no other exceptions to it. You basically have to just draw a card on the front. Nothing else does anything so far. They're very generic. But what makes his ability so much better is he gets a value that happens later on in the game because instead of just drawing a single card when he awakens, like almost every other leader in this game, he's going to go ahead and ramp. Well, that means that effectively he loses a life, which is a problem, but he's going to get an energy. Well, in this game, we're going to talk about is the fact that energy is pretty much the lifeblood of the game, and it's what determines your power level. So the other part is because he's Broly, he doesn't draw anymore once you awaken. He becomes a 25k. And that's okay because it means that your opponent is always comboing up to get bigger attacks. So in this game, the important thing to keep in mind is, for the most part, you either get need to head back to Goku. That'd be bad. You either get one of two things that happen. Okay, so for example, we have a 5K because it costs one. It's only worth a 5K because it has an ability that's very good. So in exchange for being good, it's weaker. Okay, so for the most part, all effects are like that. So in the case of, let's say, Vegeta here, he's a 15K. And I bring him up because that's a great example of, like, that's the max you can be for one energy. And that's a skillless card. But if you became critical, you would be a 15k, which is a skill in this game that's very powerful. But if you were skillless, you would become a 20k. Well, that math continues to trek out and continues to happen. The problem is that with these cards, when you're at 4 energy, you now have ramped at least one, right? So the deck has built-in ramp and it goes faster. So you have access to an extra energy. So now you get a card that is just as powerful as your opponent, as it was what he played on his turn 3, but now you get a very strong ability. Then, same thing on your turn 5. Turles is very, very, very big for a 5-drop. I would argue he is on par with most skillless cards because he goes from turn 5 all the way up to a 30. But he gains an ability of critical, but then he also gains the ability to make future energy. So, in comparison to like this 5-drop here, all this 5-drop does is kill a battle card. You'll notice that you have to give up a little bit of combo power in exchange for that, but this is much stronger. Well, then by the time we get to 6-drops, 6-drops are so powerful. This one has double strike. This one kills your opponent's board. And because most other players can't afford to have a ton of small and cheap stuff, a bigger stuff, they have to run cheaper stuff. You're usually hitting a lot of targets with this Android 17. But then you also gain the ability to have double strike. And it's a 40k. Well, on average, that means you could only ramp once with Brawly, and you get these big advantages. But the problem is these advantages keep getting bigger and bigger as time goes on because all the cards that are just keep getting bigger and bigger to the point where your 8-drop being Broly is so big and so powerful that you don't have to really worry about your opponent at all. Because if you get to a point where you have, let's say, 5 life and your opponent has only one character in play, you can safely drop this character, kill their battle card, swing with your leader, swing with your battle card, swing with your battle card again, because he has dual attack effectively, and then pass the turn with no energy open without risk of dying. The reason why is you're going to be such a big leader now as a 25k, even if your opponent has 4 or 5 energy, they're really outside the game. So if your opponent ever gets behind, that's what makes this deck so powerful, and it's why I think Broly is still the best deck. The reason why you're seeing a lot of yellow and red kind of climbing up is it's not very fun to play Broly long term, and the games take longer. If you're playing online and you want to get to God mode, playing a deck that only takes 9 or 10 minutes is the best way to do it. So Beerus, Ginyu, all those decks are more likely to get you to God mode faster because you can do it in half the time. But when you start thinking about what's the best deck, for me, it's going to be Broly.